Hey guys, and welcome to Film Artsy, and today we thought it would be really interesting to take a look back throughout the history of Marvel, and even larger than just the Marvel Cinematic Universe, all Marvel movies, and look at some of the most heartbreaking deaths we've seen out of the Marvel Universe. There's been a ton of major characters who have died over the years that have really served as catalysts for other characters and have had some great moments in the grand scheme of storytelling. So that being said, today we're going to look at the saddest and most emotional character deaths from the history of Marvel movies. Let's go ahead and jump into it.
Agent Romanoff, you miss me?
Oh yeah, Charles, we got ourselves an X-Men fan.
Captain.
Your Highness.
Jackman, big fan, SpiderMan. Hey everyone.
First up on our list, we wanted to look at the character Aaron, who wasn't really a massive character in the grand scheme of Marvel when you're thinking of characters, but in the Spider-Verse movie that came out last year, he did play a pretty big role being both the Prowler and being the uncle to Miles Morales, and when this character does die, it was really three-dimensional. There was a lot of dimension to this character, and the death that he had serving as kind of the Uncle Ben role for this Spider-Man character, and it was really interesting and heartbreaking to see. Here's a clip. Next up, another Spider-Man related death, looking at the Amazing Spider-Man series that came out in 2012 and had another entry in 2014, but Gwen Stacy's death at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now, a lot of people can say whatever they want about these movies, but at the end of the day, that death was relatively unexpected and pretty gut-wrenching to say the least. Here's a clip. Next up, we're looking at the X-Men and Wolverine series of movies, but we wanted to highlight Logan's death. This character was a massive character for years and years, and just the conclusion really felt full circle with the way they developed this character in the final film. Here's a clip.
They'll keep coming and coming. You don't have to fight anymore. Go. Go. Don't be what they made you.
Next up, turning the tides to maybe some more minor characters, but if you look at Guardians of the Galaxy, Peter Quill's mother, who dies at the very beginning of the first Guardians movie, is actually a really heartbreaking death scene, especially in the grand scheme of what the MCU had to offer so far. It was pretty dark in tone, but it did lead a lot of room for character development and explain a lot of Peter's character, which is something we really appreciate. Here's a clip.
Such good care of you. At least until your daddy comes back to get you. Take my hand. Peter.
Pete, come on.
Take my hand.
Next up, we have the sacrifice of Groot from the end of Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, while we did get another Groot in later movies, this sacrifice was still really heartbreaking as he was a pretty likable character, and it did help the movie feel more wholesome and made the whole group feel kind of more connected than just a group of people who just happened to team up because they were in prison together.
We are Groot.
Next, we can also look to Guardians of the Galaxy 2. This series has provided a ton of very emotional moments, looking at the death of Yondu, which was pretty impactful, and it did this really interesting parallel between Peter's biological father and his adopted father.
No! Oh! Oh, come! No! No! Oh, no!
Then as we get closer to some of the films that have released more recently, we can even look to Avengers Infinity War and see the death of Gamora, which was a very heartbreaking death, just as it had a lot of overlaying storylines going with it that not only developed Thanos' character, but developed a ton of other characters related to Gamora and just really told an interesting story here. Similarly, we can even look at Spider-Man's death from the end of Avengers Infinity War, which was really massive, and even though he comes back to life and everyone was pretty sure that it was going to happen, there's no denying that Tom Holland made a really good performance here, making a really strong move with his character, which helped develop a ton of other characters and was a major arc for Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark character leading up to his development. So we appreciate that scene in itself. Here's a clip.
You're all right.
I don't know what's happening. I don't know. Hurry. I don't want to go. I don't want to go, sir. Please. Please, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Sorry.
Next, we can look to Loki, who is a character that has died multiple times on screen, but some are more emotional than others. Here are some clips of Loki's death. And then as we go to Avengers Endgame, we can look at Black Widow's death, which was a major sacrifice, and it had a ton of storyline aspects associated with not only Hawkeye, but we also see it with Bruce Banner, and it's really cool to see what they did in just the short time they dedicated to that in the film, but also what they're going to do moving forward with more films later. And finally, one of the biggest and most emotional deaths in the Marvel Cinematic Universe easily can be dedicated to Iron Man, just as Tony Stark was this character who has kind of headlined the franchise since the beginning, and just the way they wrapped up the character, and the fact that he did have to really be a full-on sacrifice to defeat this big, awesome enemy was really satisfying, just because they had built Thanos up as such a great villain, and it took the ultimate sacrifice to take him out, and just the way that Tony Stark did it in proper Tony Stark fashion was really cool. Here's a clip of that.
We're gonna be okay. You can rest now.
Alright guys, which scene did you guys think was the most emotional and the most heartbreaking to watch when it first came out? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. For more videos though, just like this, be sure you're subscribed to Film Artsy with notifications on so you never miss an upcoming video. We'll see you guys all next time with a brand new video. Bye guys.
Talking?
I'm about to.
Hi everybody.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
Hi.
See you guys.
Know anybody?